Most of the folks we're working with are actually working. They're employed. They just can't make enough money to afford rents in Brunswick County. There's just no housing available. They're living in their car. They're bouncing between their car and a motel room as they can afford a motel room. They may be living in a broken down RV that doesn't have any utilities. A lot of folks are just doubling up in houses.
Welcome to Shoresides, a podcast where we explore the coastal North Carolina region's past, present, and future to promote community resilience. I'm Nick Magrino. According to a June report from the National Low-Income Housing Commission, North Carolinians need to make almost $4 an hour more than they did last year to afford a moderate apartment. The state is part of a nationwide trend that is seeing affordable housing become more and more out of reach for everyday wage earners, leaving many to live in their cars or on the streets. In order to understand these trends, we are zooming in on Brunswick County, which is experiencing this issue in a big way. We are speaking with Sally Learned, the Executive Director of the Brunswick Partnership for Housing, a nonprofit that supports unhoused people in Brunswick County, in order to understand where these increases came from, how they're affecting people today, and how organizations like hers are helping people in need.
What we're seeing is that the rents have increased by at least 75, 150% over the last couple years. What we're finding in our population of clients that we serve is they become homeless when their rental unit that they used to afford was sold, and landlords flipped it to either sell it in the hot housing market or raise the rents with a new tenant, and they could no longer afford the rent increase. And so that drove them into a homeless state.
Brunswick County saw a nearly 4.5% increase in population from 2023 to 2024. Learned attributes the rising rents to this growth, as well as recent natural disasters.
But basically, what happened overall in Brunswick County is that between 2019 and 2023, the county grew at a pace that it would normally have taken it 7 years to grow in. Now, this was also after the hurricanes came through, Matthew and Florence, and wiped out a lot of housing stock. So we started with a housing stock deficit. So for affordable housing, the Wilmington metro area, New Hanover, Pender, and Brunswick County are down about 20,000 units in affordable housing. So there just isn't any available affordable housing in the area.
The supply is low and the demand is high, and landlords see an opportunity to make big profits.
Landlords that used to take rent assistance vouchers that help people who were low to moderate income afford rents no longer had to take them because the demand for rental housing was so high, they could charge whatever they wanted on a free market rent and get that rent.
According to Learned, the COVID-19 pandemic has also played a part in the rent increases.
The other driver that has really impacted folks was COVID and the COVID economic impacts. So if people were working in gig industries, if they were working service jobs and they lost hours or they lost jobs, a whole piece started to happen in their lives. So they lost income, their credit tanked, which is a huge piece that's analyzed by rental management companies. They may have been evicted. They lost their housing, so there was housing instability, and they just couldn't get back on their feet. And so now when they go out to try and find a rental unit to even apply for one, they're coming in with bad credit reports that have been hit. They're coming in with eviction histories, and they can't meet the bar for the applications for affordable housing properties.
The end result is that rents have increased by 33% over the past 5 years, and that's only accounting for the fair market rent that's set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Free market rents, as Learned calls them, can go even higher. Moving out of the county isn't necessarily a solution for people burdened with high rent either.
And more, like I said, we're just encountering people who are working, but they just can't afford the housing. And it's not a simple solution to say, well, why don't they just move out of county and commute? The problem is there's no affordable housing out of county, and then they have the added transportation costs of coming back into county if they have reliable transportation.
Learned's organization supports these people by letting them stay in their transitional housing units for 12 to 18 months. While there, the Brunswick Partnership for Housing helps them work out a budget while they find stable income and clean up their credit. When they're ready, they can move out into rent-stabilized apartments that the partnership can help them find. That's a short-term solution that can help certain individuals or families, but work is also being done to convince the local government to invest in affordable housing.
So we've been talking with Brunswick County, and that's been an uphill battle, but they're beginning to look at ways that they could work with developers to make affordable housing a possibility. When you have a large rural county like Brunswick County, you think that there would be a lot of land options for development, but there really isn't. A lot of our land is not buildable because it's wetlands.
On the other hand, the tax benefits that come with building for wealthy retirees can be too enticing for developers to resist. And to Learned, it's to the county's detriment.
So what's happening in Brunswick County is all of the development is pushing to these high wealth, older, aged folks that are moving into the county and migrating. They're coming in from the Midwest, they're coming in from the Northeast. The housing is still cheaper here than any place else, but where they've come from, but it's high end housing for Brunswick County. And that's the push. There's a higher tax benefit to the county to build these projects. There's a higher rate of return for them. But when they move in that direction, they're not building a continuum of housing.
While local government is chasing short-term gains, Learned feels that a long-term problem is continuing to fester.
We've seen this happen in other areas of the country where they've just followed these development booms and they've followed what they think is that golden trail with high wealth folks moving in and fast, high cost development. But if you don't build that continuum of care, you can't support it. So that's what we're trying to tell Brunswick County, that it's time to sit back and really look at the ways that we can successfully put affordable housing units on the ground and workforce housing. So without workforce housing, it's going to be a problem. It's a problem now. It's going to get worse over the next 5 years.
From Shoresides, this is Nicholas Magrino. Learn more about Shoresides at shoresides.org. Thank you for listening.